Hey, this is $100 tournament from untap.in.
Why is Richie lying on his desk? He is typing the T key over and over. This seems to be an inefficient writing method.
Hold up. I think Richie talks in his sleep. Listen. Like, comment, and homemade Discord. I still don't have an outro. The new set is gonna be released this...
Hey, wake up! Wakey, eggs, and whatever else people who wake up in the morning time eat. What the heck, Sai? I was having the most fantastic dream. What about? Well, I dreamt that whenever I snapped my fingers, it would start the intro, something like this. Hey, this is Richie here from Rougen TCG, and today it's come to my attention that people who want to start the game are being stonewalled. Or should I say living walled? You shouldn't. By how tricky it can be to make a deck. Now before I just give you some deck lists, let me firstly say there are no inherently bad cards in the Evergreen set. The Evergreen set is what I call a large lump sum of neutral cards, all designed to be simple and give you options to play with. On untap.in, you can find every card in the Evergreen set just by typing in :set equals Evergreen into the CCCG bar. Also, important clarification. Rougen's maximum deck size is only 20 cards, the minimum is 15. So, it's possible to read around 15 to 20 cards that you think sound like fun, slap them in a deck, up to 2 copies of each non-legendary card, and just get started. No amount of pre-curated deck lists can give you an intuitive sense to feel what Rougen is like. That kind of game sense can only come from practice. And finally, if you're looking to just get your bearings, because you come from a game that has a lot of archetypes, Rougen does have archetypes, and they're all found in the Evergreen set, those being dragons, knights, and nightmares. If you enjoy theory crafting, consider taking those cards and just browsing the Evergreen set for some gizmos or knickknacks to tack on. Still though, if you aren't convinced, I'm more than happy to give you a few simple decks that can get you started. In fact, I'll do you one better. If you look in the description of this video, you can find the entire deck list and simply copy and paste them into the untap.in pre-built deck feature. Starting off strong this week, these weak starting strong creatures go by the name Dragon. Stats lower than my GPA plus my IQ. Plus, you mean minus? I wouldn't know, I failed math too. Thankfully, my English is more gooder than my other subjects. As I was saying, almost every dragon's main goal is to make other dragons permanently stronger. Whether that be +2 defense from Castle Dragon, or +1/+1 from Cave Dragon, eventually, your dragons will become objectively better than stat-based creatures. It's a matter of sustaining the beginning, and then keeping up board control while they scale. Pun intended. Hold up. You made an entire deck list and archetype based around a pun? That's like top 10... 11 craziest things you've done this week. Jeez Louise. This deck recommends 1 copy of Caija Unagu, because you can't have 2. 2 copies of Captive Dragon. It's already captive, you might as well. 2 copies of Ivorize. Use it on your own creatures to assert dominance. 2 copies of Crystal Dragon. Crystal healing not included. 1 copy of Captain Dragonrider. We didn't want her, but she's our ride. 2 copies of Corrupt Dragon. Technically 4 copies of Dragon Token, but who's counting? 2 copies of Tortex. You can substitute margarine if you need. And 2 copies of Cave Dragon. Then preheat the oven to 350 degrees. Nightmares and Knights are a tad more complex. See, Knights themselves are, to commandeer a phrase, the milk of Rougen TCG. Ew. Yeah, I picked up that one from the Discord. Oh, you went to the Discord? Yeah, he went to the Discord. Yeah, I went to the Discord. I love the Discord. Everyone loves the Discord. I love the Discord. What were we talking about? Probably not important. Probably not important. Yeah, probably not important. Check the Discord out or I'm gonna break it. Knights work great by themselves, but in tandem, not so much. They're all balanced around the general principle of having high health. Reason being, they were supposed to be finishers when you play Steinhold Obside, who swaps the attack and defense of all cards in the field, deck, and grave, making a 1/5 into a 5/1/1, and then a 1/9 into a 9/1/1. Oh geez, I guess I've had nightmares. Nightmares are all counter cards to specific styles of play. By themselves, they work fine in any given deck, but I personally believe that almost every deck can benefit from one of the 9 nightmare cards, with the exception of Nycto.
We're going to be sending a squad car to your location at 4103 West.
Problem solved, I hung up on them. All that to say, I wouldn't recommend just playing Knights. Nightmares are also a bit iffy. If you're just starting, let me talk you through some other options first. Moderators, while they're not an archetype, they are a microtype. What's a microtype, you may ask? Well, it's like my LaCroix version of an archetype. Less support cards and more straight to the unique concept. The unique concept in question for moderators is that they have a special effect when they enter the grave. Getting them there, however, is more difficult than you may suspect. They all have a moderator-specific keyword, or a word that means multiple words to save space. The word in question, ignorable. meaning they can be quite succinctly ignored while on field. An easy way to consider them is as though they are just a side quest to the main objective, that being to blow the punk who dared to play you off the board. This deck recommends 1 copy of the Burning and Etherial Moderators. Moderators are burning. 2 copies of the Spectral and Natural Moderator, plus 2 copies of the Meowderator. The Moderators are ghosts. 1 copy of Peacekeeper. I was wondering where all the peace went in recent times. Clearly he is keeping it all. 2 copies of Big Cronch, supersized at no charge because this is America. 2 copies of Ivorize, if only for how cool it looks. 2 copies of Lava Incarnate, if only for how cool it looks. And 2 copies of Reflect Samurai, if only for how cool it looks. Why did you say the same thing 3 times, dude? Because I am 3 times the Rougen player you will ever be. The faster you get these cards into the grave, the faster you can dominate. This deck is a different kind of rushdown. You're rushing to get as many of your own cards in their own grave as possible. Once you do, the game simplifies for you significantly. Now you're moderating the game without even playing cards. Not my kind of deck though, too thinky. I like to hit people with the big monsters. Actually, let me tell y'all what I play. I call it Tough Guy, a deck built around cheating out 5+ attack and defense creatures into play. This deck is much more beginner friendly because all the concepts are directly in front of you. You're just playing cards in your hand. The only cards that aren't absurdly strong creatures in your deck are cards that are used to play absurdly strong creatures. If you'd like to venture into the wild best of the first official set of Rougen Desperado West, you can also find fun cards like Gambling Man, Lone Star, and Manifest Destiny. One point I tried to make with these decks is making them not very legendary. In all the decks that I mentioned, the average amount of the rarest card type in the game is 0.67, barely 1 per deck. Reason being, when I make these cards publicly available to purchase, I was thinking making 1 or more of these structured decks that you could purchase. If I did though, the rarity would dictate how affordable and uncommon the cards would have to be. While every deck benefits from jamming the Kentomen for most scenarios, that's not, and for all intents and purposes, shouldn't be, a very easy card to get. From careful testing, I've mathematically determined that I'm not very good at Rougen TCG. What I'm competent in is making fun, intuitive, dynamic, and interesting deck lists. I've always treated Rougen TCG as more of a party game than a game to min-max. These decks are simply my personal recommendations, and more to the point, are not the best possible deck. To get those, you have to find them yourself. Even the oldest Rougen cards are less than 3 years old, so in terms of pen and paper games, this meta is loose and subject to change. You could be the one to find Rougen's version of Exodia, or Pirate Warrior from Hearthstone. That's the fun part of making decks, and hang on, this is almost an outro! No, don't flash the stupid gradient on screen, and don't flash the text. Oh, he's flashing the text, it's over, it's a wash, I still don't have an outro.